Live. Alrighty. Don't worry, darling. Review coming up right now, and all the drama around it. Very interesting stuff coming at you in a little bit.
Yeah, stay tuned. All right.
We're back. Episode 22, I guess, and
22.
we're making this more of a review.
Yeah,
I'm
it's going to
excited
be more of an in-between, yeah. But
Yep. So this is the Entertainment Business Review, episode number 22. We are the two smartest dumbasses talking about the entertainment business.
That's right. My name's Jordan.
My name is Brian, and it is our pleasure to have watched Don't Worry, Darling this morning.
In that intro, it was kind of funny when you were like trying to do like an accent and like sounds like Harry Styles trying to figure out what
Exactly.
accent to
That's
do.
what I was going for. Where he was just not figuring it out. Except I'm actually great at accents, and he's apparently not.
No. Well, it's funny. It's also funny. I was thinking about this actually later today. I bet what happened was the character was originally supposed to be American. And then
because of Shia LaBeouf originally.
Yeah, with Shia LaBeouf, it was probably supposed to be American, and then they were like, Harry Styles, okay, Harry Styles is great. I'm sure he'll be able to figure out the American accent. And they watched like a few clips of him like doing the American accent. They're like, okay, we don't want to reshoot, but like,
it's not working.
let's make him British because he's sucking at this. That's I guarantee you that's what happens.
That's
it
totally
makes
what
no
happens.
sense otherwise.
Yeah,
right?
they didn't need to shell out for like an accent coach. No, let's just make him British.
And actually, now that you say that about Shia LaBeouf, now I'm even more convinced of that theory.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, why if they wanted to be a British, they would have done Harry Styles first.
Yeah.
Which means, well, I mean, I think we all know.
But I
this,
think
Olivia Wilde is absolutely like a
wild
liar. Like she's like, oh yeah, Shia LaBeouf. I mean, Harry Styles was my first choice.
True to the name.
Yeah, like it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's also like so indicative of how the movie turned out almost.
Yeah.
Because all right, well let's just give a quick spoiler disclaimer here. So we're going to be talking about the entire synopsis and what happens in it and some of the background. But we also want to give an overview of how it's done, the background around it, and what we think it's going to do. So
particularly because it goes off the rails at the end. So like we need to
we
need to talk about the ending.
Let's dive right into it. General thoughts and impressions. So I agree with you. I think it started relatively strong. There was a lot of intrigue that they were able to develop. You're kind of thinking like, what's going on? What's this? Why is this? And then I think they like fudged the landing, and the last like 30% of it was kind of like not very good.
Yeah.
So here, let's give a quick synopsis. So it's basically set in the utopian 50s. And the reason why they did that was because that was a period of time where I think most men would agree that it was like a utopian time where they're the height of the patriarchy.
Yes.
America was just coming into its own. Everything was in consumer opulence, and this
is probably another hot take, but I guarantee you there's plenty of women who also enjoyed that time.
Probably.
They obviously like career, like they were in a bad position career-wise, but like this movie showed, like it's funny, like I saw that and like all the wives had to do was just drink and take care of kids all day. It's like, that does sound like a pretty dope life for anybody.
I would be down to do that too.
I'd be down to do that. Like I don't have to work. I just sit around and chill and party.
So set in that 50s time, things seem a little bit odd. Mm-hmm. So Florence Pugh plays, God, I forgot what her name is. Alice. And she is the wife of one of the employees, and all of the guys basically work for some mysterious company. They don't know what they do, and Chris Pine's character is the head of that company.
Progressive Metals.
They do Progressive Metals, and they basically leave during the day, and the ladies are left to their own devices for most of the day. Things are weird. Florence character Alice starts to notice a couple things, and she thinks that things aren't right. And then later on, it's revealed that it's basically a whole simulation where these incel men basically kidnap their wives and bring them into the simulation. Or just
any women, I guess. We don't even know if they
we don't even know.
They could have just been dating.
Right, because at the time, they're like, pre-existing relationship? Yes, for this one. So there may have been not pre-existing relationships. So they bring them in, they somehow indoctrinate them, and then they essentially live their lives in this simulation that's perfect after 5 o'clock, and then 9 to 5, the incel husbands go
They
go
leave,
to actual work.
and they go to the actual real world, and I guess work to make sure that the woman's body is alive.
Yep.
I guess, and then they come back, and that's how they live their life.
Yep. So
Which, it's kind of like real life for a lot of men who just like video games. They
totally.
go to work and they play video games.
For me,
Very similar.
it's kind of like a mix between the Stepford Wives, that movie, and Severance, the TV show, right? Because it's kind of like mysterious company. You don't really know what they're doing. They're gone half the day.
Yeah.
So overall, I think the concept was good.
Yeah, the idea was there, and it had potential. That was like the way I thought about it at the beginning.
Yep.
It was like, this actually has like potential to be really good.
Yep. I agree. And it was really good at the beginning.
But it set it up pretty well. I
Yeah.
was just like, there's a lot of things I don't know, but like I'm kind of okay with that. Like if they explain this well and they close the loop well, like this could be great.
Yeah.
And then
the twist and the actual reveal was not that great.
Well, I'll tell you like kind of like the annoyances that I had like as it like progressed, I guess, because I started off positive and then like slowly moved to like less and less positive as it went on. So like I remember the first time I was kind of annoyed was like it started like, I really hope this like they figured this out is when she's like kind of helpless, like she's like, I don't know what to do, I don't know anything, and then the Jordan Peterson character, the character that Chris Pine is playing, goes into the kitchen and basically is like, you're my rival, which like, why? Like, what is she did nothing to like make her seem a threat to you at all, other than that she's actually acting crazy, but you can just handle her just like you did the last person. So like, I don't know why he's intimidated by her, because it literally just happens with the other girl like a couple of days ago. So not sure why he's like intimidated by her, but then he says like, you can do whatever you want, like I have control. And then she's like, and now she's capable. Now she's like a hero. And you're like, well, just because like he said some mean things to you, now you're capable of stuff instead of crying all over the place.
Yeah, and
so
also
her
why is she
character
getting
totally
the special
changed.
treatment?
Yeah. Like, why is she getting special treatment from this guy when like another girl went crazy? I'm sure I don't know how long the simulation has been, but like I'm sure there have been other instances where wives starting to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, and they had verifiable proof that somebody did, and like he's like, but this one is special. It's like, why?
I think this is a good point to raise two important background contexts for this movie. The first is that there's a whole like Olivia Wilde drama that's going on that's like underpinning all the cast here. Which, to be honest,
Real world,
and I don't think it really bled into the movie at all. I think they were all pretty professional about it. So even if there was drama, it didn't appear in the film.
It didn't seem, other than that, like there might have been production crap happening that like made the movie worse, and we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It didn't like bleed. I didn't like watch the movie. It was like there were definitely like drama issues with this movie.
Yeah, I didn't think that at all. And the second piece of context is that in interviews, Olivia Wilde said specifically that the character that Chris Pine plays is based on Jordan Peterson.
Yes.
Who, if you don't know, he's basically I think a psychologist, clinical psychologist from Canada, who got famous because, one, he wrote a book called The 12 Rules of Life, which many perceive as like wildly misogynistic, and I'll explain why that's not actually the case, because I read the book and I'll explain. Yeah. And the other reason is because he opposed these laws that basically said if you incorrectly specified someone's pronoun, then you could be charged, and so
you could be criminally prosecuted.
And so he was arguing
pronouns.
And so he's arguing this law is a infringement on freedom.
Which
and so
true.
Yeah, and so
I mean,
why he's become kind of like this to quote Olivia Wilde, he's the hero of the incel community.
Yeah.
Is because what he talks about, especially in the 12 Rules of Life, is he brings all these examples from biology, from different areas, to show that there's certain tenets about existence and biological beings. There's like hierarchies, all these things that underpin all animal experiences. And so understanding these will let understanding these nuances can let you decide how you want to act. Mm-hmm. And so his whole thing is about men need to be empowered to do things that make them more competent, right? Mm-hmm. Like you should be empowered to be good at stuff. You should be empowered to acknowledge power. You should have goals. And so what he's trying to do is encourage men to achieve their full potential first before going after.
Now, is he saying women shouldn't do that?
No, he's not saying that at all.
Okay, yeah.
But what happens and why it's been misconstrued is that his concepts of masculinity and femininity they people misconstrue them as like men and female weakness or female chaos, things like that.
If you separate the two, that means men are strong, women are weak.
Yeah. So there's these like dichotomies that are being drawn. But what he's really saying is that there's a set of characteristics that are defined as masculine and defined as feminine. Everyone has sets of both, but they're just descriptors, right? So like creating this character based off of him is a fundamental misunderstanding of what he's actually preaching.
Yeah.
So that's some context into it. Okay.
That's very unsurprising because every critic I've heard of Jordan Peterson has never read or watched any of his videos.
Any of his stuff.
Like that's pretty common with a lot of the people who like people consider like right wing. Like I've listened to a lot of them and like these people aren't really right wing.
Yeah. Well,
Jordan Peterson's one of those people where it's like. He says some things, obviously, that are a bit more conservative, but
right?
Like,
or he'll say them in a clickbaity way.
He sometimes can be clickbaity for sure. And now he's on the Daily Wire, so like he's
full blown.
Now he's pretty much on the full blown right. But like the criticism that I have generally to like people on liberals usually on Jordan Peterson, they don't listen to his stuff, and then they just like, well, the media said he's bad. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, not to go too much on that.
But
this was, it was supposed to be a representation on him, and the character was absolutely not.
Yeah.
The only thing that was similar was the YouTube stuff, where it's like, he got in, he
which
watched
they didn't
on YouTube,
even,
which is like, all right, I mean, that's fair. He did get a following like through that way, and and he probably did get a following like men who are struggling with life and trying to find purpose and whatever. Yeah. So like that's fair, but like in terms of like how he acts and like. Jordan Peterson in real life would not want a society like that.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing. Like, I think what they basically say as like the overarching theme in this is that there's a patriarchy, and basically it's a utopian illusion that men want for women, right?
They want for
women to follow. So that's kind of like the theme of it, right? That this 50s utopia is what men construe as the utopia, and they want women to follow it. That's kind of like the overarching theme.
So
like
this is an effect of the patriarchy. Life.
Yes, this is
only men's. Yep. No women would like this, and all men like this.
Yeah.
Got it.
But the fundamental like the what causes this is that there's incel men that are trying to which I think
like,
is
what's the definition of an incel man?
Yeah, I mean,
like
look,
a guy that's looking for purpose. I guess
there's
like
some stuff in there.
On his luck, like
yeah, I mean there are some instances of incels like doing this, right? But for the most part, it's just like it's men empowerment, which people have problems with. Okay.
Yep.
But yeah, let's move on from that from the political context.
But again, like one of the problems I have with Hollywood a lot is like the whole purpose of Hollywood is that I don't think about these things.
I don't want to think about these things.
I don't want to think about these things.
Yeah.
So if I get a thing in my head, like any like political leaning in a movie, I get annoyed. Whether it's on the right or the left. Like I've watched overly Christian stuff, and I'm like, all right, this seems like I'm trying to force you to be Christian.
Any political leaning that isn't integral to the story.
Yes. Yeah. Like 1984 is very political, but they're not like saying like the right's doing this or the left's doing this. It's just a story to tell you like this is what authoritarianism could look like. That's fine. If there's politics within the story itself that makes sense in the world, fine.
Yep.
But if I feel like it's stemming from the real world and it's trying to say something about the real world politics, I'm like, okay.
There's an agenda. If you can tell that there's an agenda, then it kind of ruins it.
It's like more about the message than it is about like just like trying to entertain you. And I'm like, all right. So like that's what this one ended up coming out to be. It seemed like very much like men are evil and women are being tricked. And it's like, okay. I mean, fair. I mean, fine. Back in those days, it's fair. But like to the point I made earlier, like. And actually, the funny part is they do address that in the movie, where some women would like that lifestyle because the Olivia Wilde character did like that lifestyle,
or she chose that.
Right, and it's like,
but that was kind of just a throwaway.
It feel like it was almost like a throwaway, like, oh, I relate to you, but like this is dumb. She's evil, like.
Anyways,
it's like, okay, I guess.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's a good segue into like the actual positives of the movie. So for me, I thought the performances were actually quite good.
The acting was good, besides Harry Styles' accent, which might have not been his fault. To be fair.
To be fair, yeah. But he was actually surprisingly good. Like I've seen him in
acting-wise.
I've seen him in Dunkirk. He was okay. But in this, he actually had full lines, and I was like I wasn't taken out of it at all.
No, I didn't. I actually
knowing that he's a singer.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I don't really listen or pay attention to a lot of Harry Styles stuff personally, so like I didn't really feel like I couldn't escape with him.
Right.
Unlike Ed Sheeran singing on Game of Thrones, which is like
completely took you
what
out.
the fuck. But like Harry Styles, like I saw him and I'm like, okay, I know what he is in real life. But like I was able to quickly like get out of that and like just be ingrained in his character.
Yeah.
Which was good. I mean, that's exactly what you want as an actor. So
Florence Pugh was amazing. Like
she's
her
always
entire
very good.
beat was totally on. But I, like we talked about earlier, we're kind of worried about her being typecast now because she always plays like the gaslit, vulnerable main character in some sort of a horror thriller.
Yep.
So hopefully she doesn't get typecast that way, but she was great in it. I thought Chris Pine was good for what he was supposed to be, but it was kind of a waste of his talent. Right?
It was a waste of his. He wasn't in it very much.
Yeah. And like he didn't have as much impact in the story as you kind of were hoping for.
Also, like I don't know. This is also one of my complaints that Hollywood has sometimes done is they've made the villains weak, and so like the way she escaped was like super. I mean, it wasn't super easy, but it wasn't like incredibly difficult. And so you're like, okay, so Chris Pine really wasn't that competent. And so you're like, they do this a lot where like the reason why you need to make villains powerful and actually very competent and very good at what they do, because A, it makes it realistic that they got power in the first place. But then B, it makes overcoming them a lot more like
it increases the stakes.
It increases the stakes. But if the villain, like they did this with Jurassic Park, where like the guy who was in charge of that entire company was like kind of a bitch. Like he wasn't even that good. He didn't know anything. Like everybody else was better than him and everything. And it's like, this doesn't feel like anybody accomplished anything. Yeah. But like if you, let's say you convert, Darth Vader and he's your father and you convert him to the light and you killed the Sith at the same time, both of which have proven to be like really powerful people, the ending is more satisfying. So like with this, I mean, Chris Pine, you're supposed to be intimidated by him. And I'm like, he didn't really do much to make me intimidated by him.
They didn't spend
or make him seem evil.
Yeah, he didn't spend any time in the movie to establish if he was dangerous or not. Yeah. And I think that was a big... I wasn't fearful of it, right?
No.
Like Florence Pugh is going through some shit, but outside of that, you're not really sure.
No.
You're not scared of anything.
It's a way to like. There was also like not a lot of nuance with the male characters at all in terms of like their motivations. Like Harry Styles and like I guess the rest of the dudes were just evil dudes,
passive characters. Yeah,
they're just passive, but passively evil. Like they're just evil as people, and you're like you don't explain that. Like a better way to have done it. And explain like Florence Pugh's as if like, okay, let's say he's not a terrible dude and he didn't just like trick her into this, but he asked her first. Let's say like they were having a bad, and he's like, look, you're working these many hours. Like I'm struggling. We're struggling. Let's do this world. Like this world will be great for us. Yeah. And then you could have her be like, yeah, but like I also don't want to be in a simulation my entire life. Like I actually do like working. Like let's make real life work. And him being like, I don't think it's going to work out. And then he tricks her. Like, at least he tried. And then, like, but like, just to like,
we didn't
trick
establish
her,
any of that.
They didn't establish any of that. And then he just tricks her, like, immediately. That's also, there's plot holes with that, right? That we've talked about. So,
let's hold off on the plot holes. There's so many.
Yeah.
The other positives that I drew out was the music was actually really good.
The music was good.
I thought it was very, very thematic. Right?
It did remind me of Midsommar, like the creepy, like
And then like the vocals were like really effective.
Yep.
I also thought the set designs and the costumes were all like really good, really spot on, right? Like you really bought it.
Made me want to be. I mean, the set itself was like really glamorous. I was like,
it's pretty cool.
This is great.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so that's pretty much all I had as the positives. Anything else?
No.
All right, then let's go to the
that's
negatives.
Pretty much it. Yeah.
And I think the thing that you're touching on from some of the stuff you mentioned earlier is that there's plot holes, but there's a lot of like movie logic that they kind of just assume that you would go along with.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I there's as an adult, like there's a lot of stuff you can't just get away with that anymore.
You can just explain it. Yeah. One of my biggest critiques is like it's not real, so like you don't have to. Like, we can just do stuff, and, like, you just have to believe it. It's like, you got to convince us to believe these things.
Yeah.
Like, we're still attached to the real world. You have to, like, make it. You have to at least, if you're going to do something different that diverges from the real world, you need to explain it.
Yeah.
Like, you need to explain why it's different, or, like, how it came to be in this different world that you're in.
So the biggest thing that was an issue for me was, like, if this is a huge simulation, why do they need to kidnap their wives? Why don't they just create the simulations and let these incels just dial in and just experience it? Like, they had to make the point that they were, like, basically, like, indoctrinating women.
Right.
Right.
They needed to make that point when, in reality, real incels probably don't have girlfriends. and they probably would
Very
just
true.
jump into a real world where like women aren't real.
Yeah,
but they don't
Just
give a
get
shit. 'cause
Japanese
they're
sex dolls
incels.
and shit. You know,
I mean, this is already happening in Japan. Like, this shit's already happening.
Yeah.
Guys are just like, I don't even want to deal with women. I'll just create one.
Yeah.
And just deal with that, which is like much more what incels would do. If they wouldn't involve themselves with real women, why even bother with that? And we also don't establish, like, does the Jordan Peterson character, like, does he know that they're kidnapping them, or is that a requirement that you need to bring it? Like, is he just a straight criminal, or is he that know that it's happening? He must know that it's happening.
Yeah, like
So
what's
he's just
his
doing
deal
it?
too? Like
Yeah,
why is
what's
he
his
in
deal?
it? Yeah,
We don't know anything about him. Like, there should have been a point where maybe she had to confront him, and he like. There's a reason why there are scenes, and it's a cheesy trope, but like where the villains like explain why they're doing what they're doing. I mean, obviously it's a little cheesy, and sometimes it's like, this would never happen in real life, but also you need it in order to. You can't just be like, he's just evil and that's it.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? How?
Yeah.
Why?
What's the background?
Like,
here?
what's the background? You just like, it's evil. That's lazy writing.
Yeah.
Just to be like, he's just a bad person.
You know what's
It's like,
lazy writing?
why?
Like killing him off in the last like 10 seconds of the movie in such a way that like
I laughed.
Oh my
I
God.
laughed during that scene. I was like,
such a
why didn't his
cheap-
wife just fucking stab him?
yeah, it was such a cheap way to
Wait, so
end the
she
character.
didn't know he tricked her too?
Yeah.
And also, there was no build up to her like not.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like when she was going crazy. You know,
She was
her being
experiencing
like,
things
hey,
too.
I know what you're going through.
Yeah.
Like, shh, like keep it posted, but I'm on your side. They didn't lead up to it at all. She just randomly starts stabbing. It's my turn now. It's like, fuck the patriarchy. It's like, oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
She didn't even like. There's no establishment of why she even disliked her husband. She seemed very cool with the world.
Yeah.
Like, what, was she acting the whole time?
Who
and
knows?
If she was acting, yeah, why wouldn't she have lent a helping hand
Yeah,
to Florence
who knows?
Pugh? Like, it's a huge plot hole. And I honestly think it was Olivia Wilde being like, I want, like, this is the transition moment of the patriarchy into the monarchy. Like, the matriarchy, whatever. And they're just like,
it's just
you
too
gotta
random.
Earn that.
There was
you
no.
gotta earn that.
You have to earn a moment like that, and they just didn't.
No.
I also think like there's so much stuff in it that has more questions than it does answer things. Like, like for example, the whole like dancing circus people. Like, what's up with that?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
what,
I don't know.
They just kind of breeze over that. Like,
Yeah, I maybe that's like the gateway that they see when they go into the thing, but like, why?
But
I don't know.
why? That's like
No.
what was the point of all of that?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just for cinematic effect, which now I'll get to another thing that I think is a negative is that there's definitely some randomness in the direction where I wasn't really sure like what they were doing, and in some parts they were trying too hard for it to be like scary or thematic or things like that.
Yeah.
Right, like
what?
like for example, like the whole saran wrap thing, or like the
Oh yeah,
glass
I don't
thing.
know what
Like,
that was.
Like I don't even know what it's like. It's supposed to symbolize them being suffocated, but it's too
But,
on
like,
the
why
nose.
did she do it? Like, was her mind? See,
Like,
I thought.
But why did she do it? Right?
Right. I didn't mind that scene because I thought, well, maybe they're controlling her mind, and maybe they're like actually like they're controlling her and forcing her to do that as like a signal of like, stop what you're fucking doing.
Yeah.
We can fucking kill you whenever. Stop. And then she could have gone into to be like, oh my God, like I'm not in control of my own body.
Right.
That would have made sense. And I'm
Right.
like, okay,
But
they can,
that's
but
not.
they don't control her body.
Yeah, and that's
so,
what
like,
I'm
why
saying.
did she do that in the first place?
Those are just to be for like
right.
scary effect, right?
Right.
That's what I had. Like I went through the exact same thought process, and like
That's a good point. I didn't think about that, but yes,
they
that scene
essentially-
makes no sense now.
yeah, they just did stuff to make it seem scary. But
Yeah.
when I was like thinking about it again, like I wasn't really scared.
Yeah.
in
Well,
the movie.
Another thing that kind of like now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, I was never scared. But also another thing that I was thinking about too was like, remember the eggs being empty? I was like, well, okay. And then you know, if I asked like Olivia Wilde probably like, why were the eggs empty? She'd be like,
Yeah.
well, it was a simulation. I'm like,
Yeah,
well, they
so
get
there were some
real
mistakes
eggs.
in this simulation.
Right. Like, what do you mean? Do you mean it was a flaw? Like, yeah, it's a flaw. I'm like, well, are they
Explain.
completely incompetent? Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? Like, they get. Well, if that was happening frequently, then more wives would be like, what the fuck's
Fucking-
going on?
Yeah, why are there empty eggs?
Like, what do you mean? Like, she just randomly happens to get the batch that was like glitchy?
Yeah.
What are you talking? They clearly can get real eggs all the time. Like,
Yeah.
it's a simulation. They should be able to figure out, make sure the eggs have yolks in them. That made no sense now. Like, I just like,
Yeah.
and again, like when they did that, I was in my suspense belief, like they're going to explain this. And now that the movie's over, I'm like, okay, you just didn't explain it. And yeah, it's a direction thing. It's like meant to kind of scare you and like
Yeah.
freak you out. And it's like, you got to
Yeah.
explain these things.
gotta
Like,
explain it. You
in the
can't-
Matrix, they explain the Matrix.
You
Like,
can't
they
just have
explain
it.
what it is.
Yeah.
It's just, and yeah, when I found out the truth, like that opened up more questions to like, did he kidnap her? I remember, well, also another thing that bothered me is like, she's obviously like, you know, freaked out about the real world, and like they barely explained why she wants to not leave the simulation. I mean, I get it, like it's like, oh, real life, like whatever.
It's her life.
But she's like, yeah, I liked working those four. Like her life wasn't that good, clearly, and like, it would be reasonable for her to be like. I mean, it's obviously the tricking part that's the problem.
Yeah.
But like, she immediately was like, no, I can't deal in this real world. I'm like, this utopia where all you have to do is drink, and she didn't even have kids, so she's just like, you just cook and you drink all day. I'm pretty sure like 99 of both men and women would sign up for that package. Like,
I would totally sign up for that.
To be in the woman's role, not to be in the guy's role. But like, I think everybody would do. So like, she's like, I don't want to do that. I need to work. And it's like, why?
It's basically
that looks great.
It demonstrates a couple things. One, strong, independent women.
Right. It's like the women need to work thing.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and the other thing is that guys are the ones who are gaslighting women when it's, it takes away from their freedom.
That's why, like, it makes me think that a lot of this like comes from like, I heard that they took over. It was on the script was on the blacklist and then they changed it later.
Yep.
So there's part of me that thinks that they took the script and Olivia Wilde was like, this is not woke enough. Right. And then like, here's the messages we need to get out. 11. Yeah, this is the message we need to get out. And that's when direction goes to shit. When you start thinking about stuff that's not about the story and you start trying to change things to like insert like messages.
Right.
And that's when it just goes to, unless you wrote the script organically based on an idea, like you could start stories off with being like, all right, what are like the ideas that we're trying to promote?
Right.
And then let's make a story around that. It's different when you have a story and then you're trying to insert the message into the story that already existed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, that was.
So if you had to, I'll just say one more thing. Like seeing Harry Styles in like the sexy mode and the incel mode just reinforces to me, it's like, don't worry, you're not ugly. You're just poor. That's like the exact definition of that meme, you know?
It really is. I mean, yeah, I actually was kind of, that's actually when the one you wrote, you said like set designs and costumes. I actually was like genuinely impressed with I'm like, they made him look pretty ugly.
Yeah,
like,
this was done very well.
Like this was actually done and looked really realistic. I'm like, all right, like Harry Styles can be pretty ugly if they like really try. Like I was like, all right, like that was very good.
Yeah.
But I mean, I agree. The acting was good. It was just honestly the direction and the script, just like there were just a lot of things. And we were talking about this, like
lazy writing.
It's lazy writing, and it honestly, I'm curious as to like. There had to have been executives that read this script and were asking the same questions that we were. Like there had to have been, right? Or no? Well, that's what I'm curious about. I'm curious if it was the executives had these questions and gave notes, and Olivia Wilde was like, "Fuck you," and just kept going, and the executive was like, "All right, fine." Or and this is what I lean towards a little bit more, and I'm scared. I'm even more scared of, to be honest, is that executives are like. We want to do the Netflix model where we're like, we don't even give notes. Like we just like want the creative to like go and do whatever they want because they're geniuses and they're perfect and there's nothing that we could do to make it better. We just give them all the money and the tools to be successful and not do anything. And I don't think that's not good. Like the best movies come from a back and forth between the really creative people and the executives who look, they're executives, but they're much more attached to the average person because they actually are average people. Just happen to be higher up at companies, but like they are like actors don't live normal lives. Like they can absolutely write stuff that is out of touch. They don't even realize.
Yeah.
Or they'll ask questions that like they wouldn't have asked, but like other people will.
Yeah. My suspicion is that because they just attach so many stars to it, they're just like, you know what, just do what you want. It's gonna sell no matter what, right? Like we got Harry Styles and Florence Pugh on the cover. Right. We're good. Chris Pine, we're good.
Which is a disservice. It is honestly, it's a disservice if you really want to like boost up and promote female directors. No, you shouldn't just let them have free reign. You should do all that you can to make their movie the best. And that's how executives should go into it. To be like, look, I'm giving you notes because I want this movie. It's going to be on your portfolio forever. Like, I want to do the most I can to help you. I'm going to give you notes. If you want to take them, go for it. If you don't, that's fine. But I want to help you make this movie the best that it can be.
Yeah.
And I worry that they're all basically following the Netflix. Like all the talent is like right in everything.
I think that's a good segue into like the actual performance of the movie. So we were kind of looking at the numbers earlier, and the budget was what 35 million.
35 million. Yeah.
Box office was 30 million in opening weekend. So based off of regular Hollywood logic, that movie just lost money. Typically, what you want to see is a box office that is 2x the budget. That
Yeah.
usually makes up the marketing expense plus the actual budget of the movie.
Because the market's usually double, right? The box, or it's usually the marketing.
Yeah,
The
the marketing
big
is usually
movies,
2x.
It's usually 2x,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Like,
usually
the production
2x.
budget. That's what I meant. So it's
Yeah.
double the production budget.
Yeah.
So they usually, and the studios don't make all the money back. They usually only get like 50% of the profits. So 50% of the box office. So
Yeah.
you have to. People think that like you have a box like. I think it's very easy to make box office was this, production was this, done. But you're always forget about marketing and you always forget about the revenue split with the chains. And so it makes it a lot harder. And that brings up, I don't know if we ever talked about this on the show, the Matt Damon, like that viral like thing that he had, I think it was on the Hot Wing show. Have you seen this? Oh, you should watch it. Actually, it's really interesting.
With Matt Damon on
It's
Hot
Matt
Wing?
Damon. So like what? So the guy on Hot Wings asks Matt Damon. I think the question was like, look, I think there are a lot of people in like society now who go on to these streaming platforms and like they're just not making movies for me anymore. And I'm curious like what you think about like kind of that situation and why that might be. And Matt Damon had like a really good and concise answer, which was basically like he's like, look, I mean, back in 20, 30 years ago, studios could afford to take a lot more chances on movies because you didn't have to make all your money in the box office. You could go to the box office, but then you would sell it to airlines and you could make money on the airlines. You could sell it. You had a huge DVD, online place. You could sell it to cable channels, and so cable channels would run it.
Yeah.
Right. Like there were other revenue streams that you could make money on these movies besides the box office. And now with streaming, the only revenue stream is the box office because once it's off the box office, it just goes to their internal streaming service and that's it. So you're not actually making money after that point. So he's like, they can't take as many chances in the box office and they can't make those movies anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's way harder to make money now on these movies. And
Well,
so
this is a prime example, right? Because this is, I mean, look,
Right.
most horror movies are pretty cheap, but this was $35 million to make. So this is a mid-tier budget movie.
Yeah.
So this
That's
is
not
not
cheap.
something that you would have taken a chance on.
Yep.
Because it's not going to make money, and
Right.
this is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, which is sad because I mean it's you wonder what's going to end up happening,
Yeah,
right? Where
you kind
it's
of
like-
hope this would have done well, right? Because then they would do more of this.
Yeah,
But
yeah, honestly, I
Yeah.
mean you would hope, but yeah, I don't know. It's
yeah,
a little sad. It's a little sad.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly hoped. I mean, I almost they were like I hoped they would be good for that reason.
Mm.
That like I want studios to take shots on original stuff. Like I
Yeah.
really want them to stop doing all these remakes and shit and like actually make original things. So I'm glad they made it for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I find it really hard to root for Olivia Wilde because it's just like. I mean, you see
That's
all
the
the drama,
publicity, right?
and you're
That's
like,
all the
yeah,
publicity.
it's all the publicity. But if
Yeah.
you follow it, you're like, I don't know how I don't know how Olivia Wilde comes out of this as the good person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it seems like everyone's against. Like, I don't see a lot of people running out to defend Olivia Wilde.
yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know.
There's more to it.
Also, one of the things I want to add before we like wrap is,
Mm-hmm.
I found it hilarious that Variety came out with that article.
Explaining it.
Variety came out with an article explaining.
The movie.
She's like, I know this might have been confusing for you, but here's all of it is. It's like, so you're admitting that the movie was crap because why? Why would you need an article explaining the movie after the? I mean, I guess I don't know. You could make the argument like Inception. They could have done that same. Like Inception was a great movie, but like maybe you don't get all of it. But it wasn't that movie. It wasn't.
I just think it's a bad omen if you have to have an article explain the movie when the movie's not intentionally complex.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that's the thing. Like, right. Like, I could have probably used an article for that for like maybe Inception.
Yeah.
What's the other movie? That,
the Chris Nolan one that was
with Matthew McConaughey. Why am I thinking?
the one in reverse.
Yeah, with like going to dimensions and stuff.
Oh,
What's the Matthew McConaughey Christopher Nolan movie? Oh my gosh.
Wait,
if we had
Matthew
a lot,
McConaughey.
Yeah, if we had a lot of people watching this, to give us a lot of shit right now.
Wait. Chris
Or maybe
Nolan.
it's not Chris Nolan.
No, you're talking about Memento.
No, Interstellar. That's what I'm
Oh,
thinking of.
Interstellar.
Interstellar.
Yeah.
with Matthew
Oh,
McConaughey.
yeah. You're right.
Yeah,
you're right,
that movie was very complex.
Yeah,
and
so you need
very
people to
like,
explain it.
So like that one, I kind of understand.
Yeah.
Me explaining. And actually, I mean, the thing is, like, that was so overly complicated that that is kind of a hit on the like. My philosophy on the movies is like you really shouldn't need them to super explain it to you after the movie ends. However, if it's taking on a really complex topic like interdimensional travel, which is what Interstellar does, and like goes into like different dimensions and stuff, then I get it's kind of warranted. But to your point, this movie wasn't complicated enough to warrant
there are
needing
some
an explanation for it.
Yeah,
It
there are
wasn't
some
a
cult
complicated
classics,
topic.
right? There are cult classics that have like worlds that extend from it that people theorize around, right? So like Donnie Darko is one of those movies, and there's like all these other ones that like it creates that, but this is not one of those movies.
No.
And I think what that means for this movie is that it's not very watchable, right? So there's not going to be people that are going to rewatch it. There's
it's
not
going to die, and
mouth.
no one's going to care about it.
So the
anymore.
drop off for this movie after opening weekend is going to be massive, which means that it's not going to make money. And my suspicion is that it's going to go to streaming very soon.
Yeah, it's
like
going to be forgotten.
within 30 days.
It's literally just going to go into the abyss of one of the streaming platforms to never be heard of again.
Yeah.
That's honestly what it's going to be, very forgetful, and no one's going to talk about it.
But what I'll say is Harry Styles is now a bona fide actor.
He
so
is.
Here we go.
And he was to your point, he was pretty good.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
I'll give him credit for that.
All right, so here we go. Final rating. What would you give it out of 10?
Oh God.
Gotta think hard, man.
God, I don't know. I mean, like a 5.
Okay, I was gonna go
I don't know.
a little bit lower than that.
A little lower.
4.7, 4.5, 4.6, something like that.
Yeah, I give it a 5, not because of anything Olivia Wilde did. Let me specify that. I want to specify, like, nothing Olivia Wilde did contributed positively to that movie. It's just a really good concept that could have been executed really well, and that's why I like it. And the set design, and well, which maybe she was involved in, I guess. But like, it was more of the potential is why I give it not like a 2.
That's exactly why I'm giving it less than 5.
Really interesting. Yeah,
that's why I'm giving it less than 5 because I mean it was Florence Pugh.
Yeah, the acting was good.
Like it was a lot of stuff that I was like on paper this should have been really freaking good.
Oh yeah.
But it just wasn't.
Also, I just want to say. So you got it like a 4.7 is what you're gonna say?
Yeah.
Okay. I will say before we end this, I laughed. I don't know if you caught me laughing when the doctor came on. The guy who played. Do you know who that guy is?
No.
He's the dude who plays like one of the aides in Veep. Have you ever watched Veep?
Oh no, I haven't seen Veep.
Oh my god, dude, that's one of the best comedies of all time. It's really that is unlike Ted Lasso.
So he's a famous actor.
Well, he's famous in that he's like very prominent role in that show.
Yeah.
So like he's not like I wouldn't say he's like super like A-list famous, but he has a prominent role in that series. He plays the aide to the president. So it's a funny dynamic because like the main character is the Veep, obviously the VP. So like he's just this guy who just like shits on their team because he's the president's aide. So he just like gives them a lot of shit for being the VP's aide and not. He's a really. I'm gonna show you after this episode. I'm gonna show you
some scenes.
Show you some scenes of him because if you see him in that context, you can't see him in anything else. So when I saw him in that doctor role being serious, I was like, oh my god, I can't take this dude seriously. He's so good in Veep. You should really, unlike Ted Lasso, I actually laughed during Veep. Yeah. I cry during Veep. So yeah, that was I think that and like. Obviously, Nick Kroll is like one of my favorite comedic actors of all time.
I thought that was a strange choice too.
That was a strange choice.
Yeah.
I don't know why they went with him. They could have found somebody
and
who
matched him with Olivia Wilde too.
It's like I don't think Olivia Wilde would ever date him in real life.
But I think that's the point, right? Like he abducted her.
Well, that's another question that they open up with when she's like, "I just wanted to be here." It's like, well, so it's
the kids.
So,
how long have you been here?
So so I added another question. Like, so how can you guys create kids in this world? How long has this world been here?
Right.
That you were able to create kids. Also, like, how does that happen? Like, do you need to have sex? And then, like, did Nick force you here, and then you discovered it later, and you're like cool with it, or like?
Yeah.
Like I don't. So I opened up like a ton of questions.
I totally realized we glossed over like the pregnant lady who's always pregnant. Like that's.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that too. Yeah, what the fuck?
Oh my god!
What did that woman like?
There's just more questions than there are answers.
They make her pregnant in the simulation.
In the simulation, and then I don't know. Anyways, 4.750.
It just.
Did you guys watch it? What did you think? Don't worry, darling. Let us know in the comments below. But you heard our thoughts. That's Brian and Jordan on the EBR.
That's it. Yep. Certified not fresh.
Not fresh. But there's some other stuff coming out soon, so we'll hopefully get some more reviews out to you soon.
Yeah. All right.
Sounds
good. Thanks for tuning in.
Peace.
Peace.